The air smelled like burning metal and death. Deho stood in the middle of what used to be a Veltharan command center, watching his fellow soldiers celebrate their victory. They were laughing, drinking, and already arguing over who would get the best pieces of alien technology scattered across the floor. Some were taking weapons as trophies. Others were loading crates of precious metals onto transport vehicles. The war was over. 3 years of brutal fighting across 12 planets had finally ended. The Veltharan Empire had fallen. The Human Federation had won. But Deho felt nothing except tired. He walked through the ruins slowly, his boots crunching on broken glass and debris. Bodies lay everywhere, both human and Veltharan. The walls were scorched black from plasma fire. Somewhere in the distance, a building collapsed with a deep rumbling sound. "Hey, Deho!" A soldier named Minsu ran up to him, grinning wide. He was carrying a strange alien rifle with glowing blue parts. "Look what I found. This thing is worth at least 50,000 credits back home. You should grab something before it's all gone." Deho shook his head. "I don't want anything." Minsu laughed like it was a joke. "Come on, man. We earned this. 3 years fighting these monsters. You deserve something for all you've been through." "No," Deho said quietly. "I just want to go home." Minsu stared at him for a moment, confused. Then he shrugged and ran off to join the others, already shouting about what he would buy with his earnings. Deho continued walking until he reached the outer wall of the compound. From here, he could see the city spreading out below. Most of it was destroyed. Smoke rose from 1,000 fires. The tall towers that the Veltharans had built were now broken stumps of metal and stone. He remembered when they first landed here 6 months ago. The city had been beautiful in a strange alien way. The Veltharans built everything tall and thin, reaching up toward their purple sky. Now it looked like a graveyard. "Captain Deho," a voice spoke behind him. He turned to see Commander Park, a thick man with gray hair and cold eyes. Park was in charge of their division and had a reputation for being ruthless. He won battles but didn't care much about the cost. "Sir," Deho said, standing straighter out of habit. "I've been looking for you," Park said, walking closer. "We're dividing up the salvage rights. As a captain, you're entitled to a 20% share of everything your unit secured. That's about 2 million credits worth of equipment and materials. Not bad for a few years of work." "I don't want it," Deho said. Park's expression hardened. "What?" "I don't want any of it, sir. Give my share to the reconstruction funds." For a long moment, Park just stared at him. Then he stepped closer, his voice dropping low and dangerous. "Listen to me carefully, Captain. We didn't fight this war to come home empty-handed. Every soldier here has earned the right to take what they want from this world. You refusing makes the rest of us look like thieves." "I'm not saying anyone else is wrong," Deho said carefully. "I just don't want anything for myself." "Why?" Park demanded. "You think you're better than us? More moral?" Deho looked back at the burning city. "No, sir. I just don't think I should profit from all this death. It doesn't feel right." Park's jaw tightened. For a second, Deho thought the commander might hit him. Instead, Park leaned in close and spoke in a harsh whisper. "You're a fool, Deho. In a week, everyone will forget about this war. In a month, they'll forget the Veltharans ever existed. The only thing that matters is what you take home with you. Remember that." The commander walked away, leaving Deho alone on the wall. As the sun set over the ruined city, Deho made his way back to the barracks to collect his gear. He didn't have much. A rifle, some spare clothes, a picture of his parents that he kept folded in his pocket. Everything he owned fit in one bag. The transport ships would start leaving tomorrow. He had already put in for a transfer to some quiet outpost far from Earth, far from the core worlds, far from anywhere people would recognize him or ask him questions about the war. He just wanted to disappear. That night, Deho couldn't sleep. He lay in his bunk listening to the other soldiers snore and mumble in their dreams. Around midnight, he got up and walked outside for fresh air. The compound was quiet now. Most of the celebration had died down. Guards patrolled the perimeter, but they paid him no attention. Deho walked to the edge of the compound where they had set up a processing area for captured Veltharans. Hundreds of them sat in groups, surrounded by fences and guard towers. They would be sent to refugee camps or given to human companies as contract workers. The Federation called it voluntary labor reconstruction, but everyone knew what it really was. He watched them for a while. The Veltharans were tall and thin with gray skin and large dark eyes. They looked almost human from a distance, but up close you could see the differences. Their fingers had an extra joint. Their eyes had no whites, just solid black or dark purple. They spoke in whistling, clicking sounds that the translators struggled to process. One Veltheran sat apart from the others, watching him back. It was a female, he thought, though it was hard to tell with their species. She was younger than most of the others, maybe equivalent to a human in their early 20s. Her clothes were torn and dirty, but she sat with her back straight, dignified despite everything. Their eyes met across the distance. Deho felt something strange pass between them, a moment of recognition. She had seen him before. He was sure of it. Then he remembered. 3 weeks ago, his unit had raided a village on the western continent. They were looking for weapons caches. Commander Park had wanted to burn the whole place down, but Deho had argued against it. He said there were too many civilians, that it wasn't necessary. Park had given in, surprisingly. They had searched the village, found the weapons, and left. Deho had even ordered his men to leave behind some food supplies from their own stores. This girl had been there. He remembered seeing her standing in a doorway, watching them with those large dark eyes. Now she was here, still watching him. Deho felt uncomfortable under her gaze. He turned and walked back toward the barracks, but he could feel her eyes on his back the whole way. The next morning, Deho boarded the transport ship. He found a seat in the back, away from the other soldiers, and tried not to think about anything. The ship lifted off with a roar of engines. Through the window, he watched Velthara Prime shrink below them, becoming just another gray ball of rock in the darkness of space. He closed his eyes and tried to sleep. What Deho didn't know was that at that very moment in the cargo bay below his feet, the young Veltheran girl was hiding behind a stack of supply crates. She had slipped aboard during the loading, moving like a shadow through the chaos. Her name was Liz, and she had made a decision. She would follow the human captain who had shown her people mercy. In her culture, a life saved created a debt that must be repaid. She didn't know where the ship was going. She didn't know what would happen when she was discovered. She only knew that this human was different from the others, and that difference meant something important. As the ship jumped into hyperspace, leaving the war behind, both Deho and Liz were heading toward a future neither of them could imagine. One seeking to forget, the other seeking to remember. The silence after victory was just the beginning. Hennel Station orbited a dead moon on the edge of Federation space. It was the kind of place people went when they wanted to be forgotten. Miners, traders, criminals, and those running from their past all mixed together in the cramped corridors and dirty bars. Deho had been there for 2 weeks, and no one had asked him a single question about where he came from. That was exactly what he wanted. He worked in the cargo bay, loading and unloading ships that came through the station. The work was hard and simple. Lift boxes, move containers, check inventory lists. His body ached at the end of each shift, but his mind stayed quiet. That was all he wanted now. Quiet. His room was tiny, barely big enough for a bed and a small table, but it was his, and he kept the door locked. Or so he thought. The first strange thing happened on his 3rd day. He came back from work and found his door slightly open. Just a crack, maybe a centimeter. He stood in the hallway, staring at it, trying to remember if he had closed it properly that morning. He must have forgotten. That was the only explanation. The second strange thing happened a week later. His food rations were running low faster than they should. He kept careful track of what he ate, and the numbers didn't match. A protein bar missing here, a water pack gone there. Small things, easy to miss. Maybe he was miscounting. The war had messed with his memory sometimes. The third strange thing was the smell. When he came back to his room one evening, there was a faint scent in the air. Something sweet and unfamiliar. It reminded him of the purple flowers that grew on Velthara Prime. Though he couldn't imagine how that smell could be here. He started to think he was going crazy. On the 15th day, Deho came back early from his shift. The cargo bay supervisor had sent everyone home because a shipment was delayed. He walked through the quiet corridors of the station, nodding at the few people he passed. When he reached his room, he heard something. A very soft sound, like breathing that wasn't quite human. He froze, his hand on the door panel. Very slowly, he opened the door and stepped inside. The room looked empty. Everything was exactly where he had left it. But he could feel someone else there, could hear that soft breathing coming from somewhere. His eyes went to the ventilation shaft above his bed. The cover was slightly crooked. "Come out," he said in a calm voice. "I know you're in there." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the ventilation cover moved, pushed aside from within. A face appeared in the darkness of the shaft. Large dark eyes stared down at him. The Veltheran girl dropped from the shaft and landed on his bed with surprising grace. She was thin, too thin, and her clothes were the same torn ones she had worn back on Velthara Prime. She looked terrified but tried to hide it, standing straight with her chin up. Deho stared at her. "You're from the transport ship." She nodded slowly. "How long have you been here?" "On the station?" She held up both hands, fingers spread. 10, or maybe 15. He wasn't sure how Veltharans counted. "Have you been hiding in my room this whole time?" Another nod. Deho felt a headache starting behind his eyes. He sat down on the edge of his bed and rubbed his face with both hands. When he looked up again, she was still standing there, watching him with those enormous eyes. "Why?" he asked. "Why follow me?" She opened her mouth and made a series of clicking, whistling sounds. Veltheran language? He didn't understand a word of it. "Do you speak any human languages?" he asked. She paused, thinking. Then she said in broken Galactic Common, the trade language used across different species. "You. Save. Village. Save Liss." Her voice was strange, musical, and rough at the same time. "Liss, that's your name?" "Yes, Liss." "I didn't save you," Deho said tiredly. "I just didn't burn down your village. That's not the same thing." "Save," she insisted. "Other humans. Take, kill, burn. You different. You. Stop them." Deho wanted to argue, but he was too tired. "You can't stay here. If station security finds you, they'll arrest you. Veltharans need proper documentation to be in Federation space." "No place go," Liss said softly. "Family dead. World broken. Only you. Honor." That word made Deho uncomfortable. Honor. He didn't feel honorable. He felt like a coward who had run away from everything. "I can maybe get you on a refugee transport," he said. "There are camps set up for Veltharans who lost their homes. They'll feed you, give you a place to sleep." Liz shook her head violently. "No camps. Camps like prison. I stay with you." "That's not," Deho started to say, but stopped. He looked at her again, really looked. She was starving. Her skin had a gray pallor that suggested she hadn't been eating nearly enough. She had been living in his ventilation shaft for 2 weeks, stealing scraps of his food, probably terrified every second that she would be discovered. And she had done it all to stay near him. "Why?" he asked again, more gently this time.
"Why is it so important to stay with me?"
Liz struggled to find the words in Galactic Common. "In Veltharan, when someone saved life, there is debt, must repay, is sacred thing." "I don't want anything from you," Deho said. "I don't believe in that kind of debt." "Not about want," Liz said. "About honor, my honor. I must stay." Before Deho could respond, his door chimed. Someone was outside. Liss's eyes went wide with fear. She looked around frantically for somewhere to hide, but there was nowhere to go. The ventilation shaft was too high to reach quickly. "Get under the bed," Deho whispered. "Don't make a sound." She dropped to the floor and rolled under the narrow bed frame, disappearing from view. Deho took a deep breath and opened the door. A woman in military uniform stood outside. She was short, with sharp eyes and a tired smile. It took him a second to recognize her. "Suna?" "Hey, Captain," she said. "Or should I say ex-captain now? I heard you resigned your commission." Suna had been a corporal in his unit, one of the few soldiers he had actually trusted. She was smart, reliable, and had a sense of humor that helped during the worst days of the war. "What are you doing here?" Deho asked, blocking the doorway with his body. "Looking for you. Can I come in?" "It's not a good time." Suna raised an eyebrow. "Really? From what I hear, you don't do anything but work and sleep. I think you can spare 5 minutes for an old friend." Deho hesitated, then stepped aside. Suna walked in and looked around the tiny room. If she noticed anything unusual, she didn't show it. "Nice place," she said sarcastically. "Real homie. What do you want, Suna?" She turned to face him and her expression became serious. "There's going to be a tribunal. War crimes investigation. They're looking at what happened during the campaign on Velthara Prime." Deho's stomach tightened. "And? Your name keeps coming up in witness testimonies. Not as someone who did anything wrong, but as someone who tried to stop things. They want you to testify." "No." "Deho, listen." I said no. I'm done with all of that. I just want to be left alone. Suna stepped closer, her voice dropping. Commander Park is going to prison, probably for the rest of his life. But there are others, officers higher up, who gave the orders. They're trying to cover it up, blame everything on field commanders like Park. If you don't testify, they'll get away with it. Let them, Deho said bitterly. What difference does it make? The war is over. The Veltharans lost. Nothing I say will change that. It matters to the survivors, Suna said quietly. It matters to the families of the soldiers who died following illegal orders. It matters to— A soft sound came from under the bed. Just a tiny movement, barely audible. Suna's eyes flicked down, then back to Deho's face. She walked slowly to the bed and knelt down, looking underneath. Well, she said after a moment, that's interesting. Liz crawled out from under the bed, understanding she had been discovered. She stood next to Deho, her posture defensive but not aggressive. Suna looked between them, her expression unreadable. Want to explain why you have an undocumented Veltharan hiding in your quarters? It's complicated, Deho said. I bet it is. Suna studied Liz carefully. Do you speak common? Little bit, Liz said. Are you here against your will? Did he force you to come here? No, Liz said quickly. I follow him. My choice. Suna looked at Deho. This is the girl from the village, isn't it? The one you saved. I didn't— Deho started, then stopped. There was no point arguing. Yes. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Suna laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. You know what? This actually changes things. If she's willing to testify about what she saw, about what you did and what others did, that could make a real difference at the tribunal. I already said no, Deho said. Liz spoke up, her voice stronger now. I testify. I tell truth. Tell what I see. Deho looked at her in surprise. Liz, you don't have to— I want to, she said firmly. Other Veltharans. They need know truth too. Need know not all humans same. Some humans, good like you. Suna smiled slightly. Smart girl. Deho felt trapped. He had come to this station to hide from his past, but his past had followed him anyway. And now it was asking him to do the one thing he didn't want to do. Go back, face what had happened, speak about things he wanted to forget. But looking at Liz, seeing the determination in her dark eyes, he realized something. She had more courage than he did. She had lost everything and was still willing to stand up and tell the truth. Maybe he could learn something from that. Fine, he said quietly. I'll testify. But she comes with me and you make sure she's protected. Suna nodded. Deal. There the commercial starliner was nothing like the military transports Deho was used to. It was clean, comfortable, and filled with civilians who had no idea what war really looked like. Families with children, business people, tourists going to see the famous monuments on the core worlds. They talked and laughed, carefree. Deho sat in his seat near the back, trying to be invisible. Liz sat next to him by the window, staring out at the stars with wonder. She had never been on a proper passenger ship before. Everything fascinated her, from the smooth seats to the way the steward brought food on small trays. Suna sat across the aisle, reading reports on a datapad. She had pulled strings to get Liz temporary travel documents, listing her as a protected witness. It wouldn't hold up to serious investigation, but it was enough to get them through basic security. You should eat something, Deho said to Liz, pushing a tray toward her. The ship's cook had prepared some kind of pasta dish. Liz looked at the food suspiciously. What is this? Human food, pasta. It's safe for Veltharans to eat, I think. She took a small bite, her face showing surprise. Good, sweet and soft. The sauce has tomatoes. They're kind of sweet. They ate in silence for a while. Deho noticed other passengers glancing at them, their eyes lingering on Liz's gray skin and dark eyes. Some looked curious. Others looked uncomfortable. One man whispered something to his wife and pulled their child closer. Liz noticed too. She put down her fork. They fear me. They're not used to Veltharans, Deho said. Give them time. I am enemy. They see soldier, not person. You're not a soldier. You're a civilian. Liz made a soft sound, something between a sigh and a whistle. In war, no such thing as civilian. Everyone part of war machine. My people knew this. Your people learned this. Deho didn't know what to say to that, so he stayed quiet. Later, when most of the passengers were sleeping, Liz turned to him. Tell me about your home. Before war. Why do you want to know? Want to understand? Why you different from other humans? Deho thought about it. He hadn't talked about his past in a long time. I grew up on a colony world called Cheongju. It's a mining planet, nothing special. My parents worked in the titanium mines, 16 hours a day every day breathing dust and chemicals. That is hard life. Yeah, they did it so I could go to school, get an education, have a better future. My mother died when I was 15. Lung disease from the mines. My father lasted 3 more years, then his heart gave out. Liz reached over and gently touched his hand. The gesture surprised him. I am sorry. It is painful to lose family. I joined the military after that. Thought I could protect people. Make sure other kids didn't lose their parents the way I did. Stupid, right? Not stupid, noble. Noble. Daeho laughed bitterly. There's nothing noble about war. I spent 3 years killing people who probably had families too, who probably had reasons for fighting just as good as mine. War corrupt noble things, Liz said quietly. Make good people do bad things. But you fight to stay good. That is why I follow you. You keep saying that, but I don't understand. What do you mean by following me? What do you think you owe me? Liz was quiet for a moment, gathering her thoughts. Her galactic common was getting better, but complex ideas were still hard for her. In Veltheran culture, we have word, Kathera, means life debt, but also more. When someone save your life, piece of their spirit enter you. You become connected, must honor that connection. That sounds like slavery, Daeho said. No, not slavery. Slavery is force. Kathera is choice. I choose to follow because you give me reason to live. Before I want to die, family gone, world destroyed, future empty. Then I see you, see human who choose mercy over victory. You show me that honor still exists in universe. Daeho felt uncomfortable with her words. I'm not some hero, Liz. I just did what any decent person would do. Exactly, Liz said, her dark eyes intense. Any decent person could do it, but most do not. You did. That make difference. Before Daeho could respond, an alarm sounded through the ship. Red lights started flashing in the corridors. Suna was on her feet immediately, her hand going to the small weapon she kept hidden under her jacket. Stay here, she said, but the ship's intercom crackled to life. A man's voice, speaking with a thick accent, filled the cabin. Attention passengers. This ship is now under our control. Do not move. Do not resist. Anyone who caused trouble will be hurt. Pirates, Daeho thought, or hijackers. Either way, this was bad. Through the windows, he could see a smaller ship attached to their hull. Boarding tunnel. They were coming inside. Passengers started panicking. A child cried. Someone screamed. The stewards tried to calm people down, but fear was spreading fast. The cabin door burst open. 4 figures in combat armor stormed in, carrying rifles. But these weren't ordinary pirates. Daeho recognized the armor design immediately. Veltharan separatists, the radical group that refused to accept the war's end, that wanted to keep fighting humans until one species or the other was extinct. The leader pulled off his helmet. He was a Veltharan male, older, with scars across his face. He spoke in the Veltharan language, harsh and commanding. Liz translated in a whisper. He say looking for traitor, Veltharan who betray her people by helping humans. Daeho's blood went cold. They were looking for Liz. The leader walked down the aisle, studying each passenger. When he saw Liz, his eyes lit up with recognition and rage. He said something in Veltharan that made Liz shrink back in her seat. He called me my betrayer, filth. Say I disgrace all Veltharan by sitting with human. The leader reached for Liz, but Daeho stood up, blocking him. Leave her alone. The Veltharan leader looked at him with contempt. You, the human who think he is better than his kind. We know about you, Captain Daeho. We know how you protected our people. You make other humans look like monsters. Good, Daeho said calmly. Some of them were monsters. The leader's hand shot out, grabbing Daeho by the throat. He was strong, stronger than a human. Daeho struggled for air. You think you are hero? The Veltharan leader hissed. You are worse than monsters. You give false hope. Make our people weak. Make them believe in mercy from humans. There is no mercy in war. Only victory or death. Suna moved then, her weapon coming up. But one of the other separatists was faster, hitting her with an electric shock that dropped her to the floor, convulsing. The leader threw Daeho aside and grabbed Liz, dragging her into the aisle. She fought, kicking and clawing, but he was too strong. This one will die as example, the leader said in broken galactic common for the benefit of the other passengers. Any Veltharan who help human is enemy of our people. Daeho struggled to his feet, his throat burning. He couldn't let this happen. Not again, He was so tired of watching people die because of this stupid war. If you kill her, Deho said, his voice rough, you prove that humans were right about your people. You prove you're the monsters everyone said you were. The leader paused, turning to look at him. What? She's braver than you, Deho continued, moving slowly forward. She's willing to tell the truth about what happened, good and bad, human and Veltheran. But you just want revenge. That's not honor. That's cowardice. Several passengers gasped. Calling a Veltheran a coward was one of the worst insults in their culture. The leader's face twisted with rage. He threw Liss aside and charged at Deho. Deho was ready. He had spent 3 years fighting Veltherans. He knew how they moved, how they thought. When the leader swung at him, Deho ducked under the blow and grabbed the Veltheran's arm, using his momentum to throw him off balance. They crashed into the seats, wrestling. The Veltheran was stronger, but Deho was more experienced. He managed to get behind the leader and locked his arm around the Veltheran's throat, squeezing. The other separatists raised their weapons, but Liss shouted something in Veltheran that made them hesitate. She spoke rapidly, her voice carrying through the cabin. Deho didn't understand the words, but he understood the tone. She was pleading, explaining, arguing. The leader struggled in Deho's grip, but he was listening to Liss too. Finally, she said something that made all the separatists lower their weapons. They looked at each other, uncertain. What did you say? Deho asked, not loosening his hold. I tell them truth, Liss said. Tell them about what you did in war. How you saved my village, how you different. Tell them that if they kill me, they kill only Veltheran who believe we can have peace. The leader stopped struggling. He spoke, his voice strained from Deho's chokehold. If we let you live, you testify? Tell Universe what humans did to us? Yes, Liss said. I tell everything. Good and bad, truth. And this human? He testified too? Yes. The leader was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something in Veltheran that sounded like agreement. Deho cautiously released him. The separatist leader stood rubbing his throat. He looked at Deho with something that might have been respect. You fight well for someone who claimed to want peace. I want peace, Deho said, but I'll fight to protect people. That's not a contradiction. The leader picked up his helmet. Maybe, maybe not. We will see what your testimony bring. If you lie, if you protect other humans who do war crimes, we come back. And next time, no talk. The Federation Justice Hall was enormous, a building of white stone and glass that reached toward the sky. Thousands of people crowded outside, held back by security barriers. Some carried signs supporting the military. Others carried signs demanding justice for war crimes. News cameras were everywhere. Deho felt sick to his stomach. Try to breathe, Suna said, guiding him and Liss through a side entrance away from the crowds. It'll be worse inside, but at least the cameras can't follow. She was right. The courtroom was packed with journalists, lawyers, military observers, and survivors from both sides of the war. The noise was deafening, everyone talking at once. At the front, 9 judges sat behind a long bench, looking stern and impatient. Security guards led Deho, Liss, and Suna to seats near the front. As they walked down the aisle, people turned to stare. Deho heard whispers. That's him, the one who refused his share of the salvage. Is that a Veltharan with him? I heard he's a traitor. I heard he's a hero. Liss walked with her head up, ignoring the stares. She had insisted on wearing traditional Veltharan clothing for the trial, a simple gray robe that marked her as a civilian scholar. Deho had helped her prepare, though he worried about making her a target. The head judge, an older woman with iron gray hair, banged her gavel. Order. We will have order. The room slowly quieted. This tribunal has been convened to investigate allegations of war crimes committed during the Veltheran campaign. The judge continued. We will hear testimony from witnesses, review evidence, and determine if any officers violated the laws of war. Let me be clear, we seek only truth here. Nothing more, nothing less. The first witnesses were called. Veltheran survivors told stories that made Deho's chest hurt. Villages burned, families separated, children orphaned. The translator struggled to keep up as Veltheran spoke about atrocities in their clicking, whistling language. Some of the stories Deho recognized. He had been there. He had seen those things happen and been powerless to stop them. The defense lawyers tried to argue that these acts were necessary, that the Veltherans had committed their own atrocities first, that war was ugly and soldiers had to make hard choices. But the survivors' words hung in the air like smoke, impossible to clear away. Then human soldiers testified. Some admitted to things they had done, their voices hollow with shame. Others justified everything, claiming they were following orders. A few broke down crying on the stand. Daeho watched Commander Park testify. The man showed no emotion, no regret. He stated simply that he had done what was necessary to win the war, and he would do it all again if needed. "Captain Daeho," the head judge said, "please approach." Daeho stood on shaking legs. He walked to the witness stand, very aware of everyone watching him. He placed his hand on the oath display and swore to tell the truth. The prosecutor, a sharp-faced man named Kim, approached him. "Captain Daeho, you served under Commander Park for the entire Veltharan campaign, correct?" "Yes, sir." "And during that time, did you witness any actions that you believed violated the laws of war?" Daeho's mouth was dry. "Yes, please describe them." So he did. He talked about the village that Commander Park wanted to burn. He talked about prisoners who were executed rather than processed. He talked about medical facilities that were destroyed even though they were marked with protection symbols. He talked about food supplies that were confiscated, leaving civilians to starve. With each story, he felt something breaking inside him. These weren't just facts. They were real people, real suffering. "Did you report these incidents?" Kim asked. "Yes, every time." "And what happened when you reported them?" "Nothing. I was told that war is messy, that I was too soft, that I didn't understand the bigger picture." Kim nodded. "Did Commander Park ever threaten you?" "Yes, he said if I kept making trouble, he would have me transferred to a punishment unit." "But you continued to report violations." "Yes." "Why?" Daeho looked at the judges. "Because someone had to. Because if we don't hold ourselves to a standard, we're no better than the enemies we fight." Kim stepped back. No further questions. The defense lawyer, a woman named Choi, approached. She had a friendly smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Captain Daeho, you paint a very negative picture of Commander Park. But isn't it true that he won every major engagement you participated in?" "Yes." "And his tactics saved human lives?" "Sometimes." "Sometimes?" Choi raised her eyebrows. "Your unit had one of the lowest casualty rates in the entire campaign. Doesn't that suggest Commander Park was protecting his soldiers?" "He protected soldiers by sacrificing civilians," Daeho said. "That's not something to be proud of. But it's effective, isn't it? In war, isn't the primary duty of a commander to bring his soldiers home alive?" Daeho thought about that. "No. The primary duty is to complete the mission while following the rules. Otherwise, we're just murderers with flags." Choi's smile vanished. "You refused your share of salvage from the campaign. 2 million credits, why?" "Because I didn't want to profit from people's suffering." "Or because you felt guilty? Because you participated in actions you now claim were wrong?" The question hit like a punch. Daeho forced himself to breathe. "Yes, I felt guilty. I still feel guilty. I followed orders when I should have refused. I stayed quiet when I should have shouted. I'm not innocent in this." Choi looked surprised by his honesty. She recovered quickly. "Then why should we believe your testimony? If you admit you're guilty, maybe you're just trying to shift blame to others." "I'm not shifting blame. I'm accepting it. What I did was wrong. What Commander Park did was wrong. What a lot of us did was wrong. We can't change the past, but we can at least tell the truth about it." Choi had no response to that. She dismissed him with a wave. Daeho returned to his seat, feeling drained. Suna squeezed his shoulder. "You did good." Then it was Lys's turn. She walked to the witness stand with quiet dignity. When asked to swear the oath, she placed her hand on the display and spoke clearly in Galactic Common. "I swear to speak only truth. On honor of my ancestors, I swear." The courtroom went very quiet. A Veltharan testifying against her own people's enemies was unprecedented. Prosecutor Kim approached her gently. "Please state your name and where you're from." "I am Lys of the Scholar Clan. I come from village of Nethar on western continent of Velthara Prime." "What happened to your village during the war?" Lys took a breath. "Human soldiers came 3 times. First time they search for weapons. They take some, leave us alone. Second time, different soldiers come. They take food, supplies, some young men for questioning. Some men never return. Third time," her voice faltered. "Take your time," Kim said. "Third time, soldiers want burn everything. Their commanders say village help separatists must be destroyed. But one captain, he argue. He say no proof, too many civilians, not necessary." Commander angry, but he listened. Captain's name was Daeho. People in the courtroom looked at Daeho. He kept his eyes down. Captain Daeho saved my village, not because he like us, not because he think war is wrong, but because it was right thing to do. He could have followed orders. Would have been easier. But he chose harder path, Kim nodded. What happened to your village after that? We survive. But other villages not so lucky. I hear stories from refugees. Villages burned, families killed, children taken. Not all humans like Captain Daeho. Most just follow orders. Some enjoy the killing. Did Veltherans commit atrocities as well? Liss didn't hesitate. Yes, my people do terrible things too. We start war. We invade human worlds. We enslave other species. We believe we superior. That conquest is our right. We were wrong. The courtroom erupted in noise. Journalists shouted questions. The judges banged their gavels for order. When quiet returned, Kim asked, "Why are you testifying here? Why help humans prosecute their own people?" "Because truth matter more than sides," Liss said. "War make everyone believe in simple stories. We good, they bad. But real world not simple. Real world have humans like Captain Daeho who choose mercy. Have Veltherans like me who see our people's evil. Truth is complicated, messy, painful. But still true." She looked directly at the judges. "If we not tell truth about what happened, war never really end. Pain just continue past the next generation. Truth is only way to heal." When Liss finished, even the defense lawyers seemed moved. Kim thanked her and let her step down. But as Liss walked back to her seat, someone in the audience stood up and shouted, "Traitor, betrayer of your species." Security moved to remove him, but the damage was done. Other voices joined in, both supporting and condemning Liss. The courtroom descended into chaos. That night, Daeho, Liss, and Suna were escorted to a secure hotel. Armed guards stood outside their rooms. "I didn't expect it to be this bad," Suna said, checking the windows. "The media's going crazy. Half the Federation thinks you're heroes. The other half thinks you're traitors. What do you think?" Daeho asked. Suna smiled tiredly. "I think you're just people trying to do the right thing, which is apparently the most dangerous thing you can be." Later, Daeho found Liss standing on the balcony, looking at the city lights. He joined her. "You were brave today," he said. "What you said about your own people, that took courage." "Was truth," Liss said simply. "Truth not always comfortable. Do you regret following me?" This while the assassination attempt came 3 days after the testimony. Daeho was in his hotel room, reviewing notes for follow-up questions the tribunal had sent when the window exploded inward. Glass sprayed everywhere. He dove behind the bed as energy bolts burned through the air where he had been standing. "Liss," he shouted. She was in the next room. The connecting door burst open and she ran through, staying low. "What happened?" "Sniper, get down!" More shots came through the window, destroying furniture and setting small fires. The hotel security alarm screamed. Daeho could hear guards running in the hallway outside. But before they could reach his room, the main door exploded. Armed figures in black armor stormed in, weapons raised. These weren't police or security. They were professionals. "Go!" Daeho pushed Liss toward the bathroom. It was the only room without windows, the only cover they had. They barely made it inside before bullets tore through the bedroom. Daeho slammed the bathroom door and locked it, knowing it would only buy them seconds. "The vent," Liss said, pointing up. There was a ventilation shaft in the ceiling, the same kind she had hidden in on Hanil Station. Daeho lifted her up. She pulled off the cover and squeezed inside. He jumped, grabbed the edge, and hauled himself up just as the bathroom door shattered under concentrated fire. They crawled through the ventilation system, the metal walls echoing with their movements. Behind them, they could hear shouting and the sound of more doors being broken down. "This way," Liss whispered. She had always been good at finding paths through tight spaces. They emerged in a maintenance corridor on a lower floor. Alarms were still blaring. Daeho's hands were cut from the broken glass, bleeding, but he ignored the pain. "We need to find Suna," he said. "She 3 floors down," Liss said. "Her room." They ran down the service stairs, avoiding the main corridors where security and assassins were fighting. The hotel was chaos. Guests were evacuating. Some people were screaming. Others were taking videos on their devices. Suna's door was already open, hanging off its hinges. Daeho's heart sank. But inside he found Suna alive, crouched behind an overturned bed, her weapon drawn. "About time," she said when she saw them. "We need to move now. Who sent them?" Daeho asked. "Does it matter? Someone with money and connections. Probably multiple someones. Come on." Suna led them through the service areas of the hotel to an underground parking garage. She had already hot-wired a delivery vehicle, something small and fast. They piled in, and Suna drove like she was still in the military, taking corners at dangerous speeds. Behind them, they could hear sirens. "Where are we going?" Deho asked from the back seat. "Anywhere but here. The tribunal put you under protection, but someone in the security detail was working for the other side. We can't trust official channels. So what do we do?" Suna was quiet for a moment, weaving through traffic. "We run. Get to the fringe territories where Federation law is weak. Hide until things calm down." "Things won't calm down," Lise said softly. "We tell truth. Truth make powerful people afraid. They not stop hunting until we dead." She was right. Deho knew she was right. Their testimony had put General Taman and dozens of other officers at risk of prison. Those people had resources, connections, and nothing to lose. Over the next week, they moved constantly. Suna had contacts from her military days, people who owed her favors or who believed in what they were doing. They stayed in safe houses, traveled on cargo ships, used fake identities. But the hunters were always close behind. On a space station called Koros, a neutral trading hub in the fringe territories, they finally got a moment to breathe. Suna rented a small apartment under a false name while she tried to figure out their next move. "We can't keep running forever," Deho said, sitting at the small table in the apartment. His hands had healed, but new bruises covered his arms from their escapes. Liz sat across from him, teaching herself to read human writing from a children's book she had found. She looked up. "Then what we do?" "I don't know," Deho admitted. "Masuna." Suna paced by the window, watching the street below. "I'm working on it. I have friends in military intelligence who are sympathetic. They're trying to gather evidence against General Taman, proof that he's behind the assassination attempts. If we can expose that, make it public, he'll be too watched to keep coming after us." "How long will that take?" Deho asked. "Could be days. Could be weeks. We might not have weeks." As if to prove his point, an explosion rocked the building. The lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. "They found us," Suna said, pulling her weapon. "How did they find us?" "Does it matter?" Deho grabbed Liss's hand. "We need to move." They ran into the hallway. Other residents were emerging from their apartments, confused and frightened. Smoke was rising from the lower floors. "Fire escape," Suna said, leading them toward the back of the building. They made it down 2 flights before armed figures appeared below them. Not military, not police, mercenaries, the kind who worked for whoever paid best. "Back," Suna shouted, but more mercenaries were coming down from above. They were trapped. The mercenaries closed in, weapons raised. Their leader, a scarred man with cold eyes, spoke in a flat voice. "Captain Deho, the girl. Come quietly and no one else gets hurt." "Run," Deho whispered to Liz. "When I move, you run." "No," Liz said firmly. "Not leave you. Listen to me." But Liz stepped forward, placing herself between Deho and the mercenaries. She spoke in Galactic Common, her voice carrying. "You want us? Then hear truth first. We testify at tribunal. We tell what happened in war. If you kill us, you kill truth." "You kill justice," the mercenary leader laughed. "Justice? There's no justice in war. Only winners and losers. You chose the losing side." "No," Liz said. "We choose right side. There is difference." The leader raised his weapon, pointing it at her heart. "Your choice. Your death." Time seemed to slow. Deho lunged forward to push Liz out of the way. Suna raised her weapon to fire. The mercenaries tensed. Then something unexpected happened. The lights in the stairwell flickered and a voice came over the building's public address system. "Attention, mercenary team. This is Federation military intelligence. You are surrounded. Drop your weapons and you will not be harmed." The mercenary leader cursed. "It's a bluff." But it wasn't. Doors burst open above and below them. Real soldiers wearing Federation military gear poured into the stairwell. They moved with the precision of elite units, weapons trained on the mercenaries. "Drop them now." The mercenaries looked at each other. They were good, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. One by one, they put down their weapons. An officer approached, a woman with sharp eyes and commander's insignia. "Captain Deho? I'm Commander Huang, military intelligence. Sorry we're late. Traffic was terrible." Deho just stared at her. "How did you find us?" "We didn't. We've been tracking the mercenaries. When they led us here, we realized you must be nearby." She looked at Suna. "Good to see you again, Corporal." Suna nodded, not lowering her weapon yet. Is this real? Or another trap? It's real. We have evidence linking these mercenaries to General Taman, enough to arrest him and several other officers. Your testimony helped, but we needed more. Physical proof. Money trails, communications, we've got it now. So it's over? Liz asked. Commander Huang's expression softened. The immediate danger, yes, but there will be a trial. More testimony, more threats. People like General Taman don't go quietly. Still, you'll have proper protection this time. Real protection. The soldiers escorted them out of the building. Outside, more military vehicles waited. News cameras were already arriving, capturing footage of the mercenaries being led away in restraints. In the vehicle, Deho finally let himself relax. Liz sat next to him, her hand finding his. She didn't say anything, but she didn't need to. They had survived. Again. Suna sat across from them, checking her weapon. You know, this means you're heroes now, right? The people who exposed the war crimes and survived multiple assassination attempts. The media is going to go crazy. I don't want to be a hero, Deho said. Too late, you already are. Deho looked at Liz. What about you? Are you okay with all this? Liz thought for a moment. Being hero is a strange concept. In my culture, heroes are warriors who die in battle. You and me, we just try to live with honor, try to speak truth. If that make us heroes, then maybe hero is wrong word. Maybe we just people who refuse to give up. I like that better, Deho said. Commander Huang turned from the front seat. Where do you want to go? We can take you back to the core worlds for the trial or somewhere safe to rest first. Deho and Liz looked at each other. They had been running for so long, always moving, never stopping. The idea of safety seemed foreign. Somewhere quiet, Deho said finally. Just for a few days. Then we'll face whatever comes next. The commander nodded. I know a place. As the vehicle lifted off, rising above the crowded streets of Koro Station, Deho watched the city lights fade below. He thought about everything that had happened. The war, the tribunal, the chase, the near-death experiences. And through it all, Liz had been there. Not because she had to be, but because she chose to be. He had spent so long trying to run from his past, trying to disappear. The safe house was on a small moon called Harem, orbiting a gas giant far from major shipping lanes. It was quiet, peaceful, and boring. Exactly what they needed. Deho spent 3 days doing nothing but sleeping, eating, and trying not to think. The house had a small garden where vegetables grew under artificial sunlight. He found himself sitting there often, watching things grow, marveling at life continuing despite everything. Liz was recovering too, but differently. She spent hours writing in a journal Commander Huang had given her, recording everything she remembered about the war. Her handwriting in Galactic Common was getting better. What are you writing? Deho asked one afternoon, sitting beside her in the garden. My story. Our story. Want to make sure it remembered correctly. For who? For everyone. Future generations need know what happened, need know truth, not propaganda. On the 4th day, Commander Huang returned with news. She found them in the garden and sat down, looking tired. General Taman's trial starts in 1 week, she said. The evidence we gathered is solid. Financial records showing payments to the mercenaries. Communication intercepts proving he ordered the assassination attempts. He's going to prison for a long time. That's good, Deho said. But there's a problem. His lawyers are claiming everything was justified, that you and Liz are the real criminals for betraying the Federation, for giving comfort to the enemy during wartime. They're painting you as traitors. Liz looked up from her journal. We tell truth. That not betrayal. I know that. You know that. But they're good at manipulating public opinion. Half the Federation believes them. There are protests in major cities, people demanding you both be arrested. Deho felt his stomach sink. So what do we do? Commander Huang leaned forward. We need to get your story out. Not through the tribunal, not through official channels. Directly to the people. Show them who you really are, let them hear the truth from you. How? Suna asked, joining them from the house. A broadcast, system-wide. We hijack a major communication relay and send your message to every screen in Federation space. Can't be edited, can't be stopped, can't be buried. Just raw truth. That's illegal, Deho said. So is trying to murder witnesses. Sometimes you have to break small laws to expose bigger crimes. Liz closed her journal. I do it, I speak. We both will, Deho said. Together. Commander Huang nodded. Then we need to move fast. The relay station on Harem's moon is perfect. It's isolated, lightly guarded, and has the range to reach most of Federation space. But General Taman's people might figure out what we're planning. This won't be easy. Nothing ever is, Suna said with a grim smile. They spent 2 days preparing. Commander Huang brought in a small team of soldiers loyal to her, people who believed in doing the right thing over following corrupt orders. They studied the relay station's layout, identified weak points, planned their approach. Liz practiced her speech, writing and rewriting it. Deho helped her with the language, making sure her words would be understood clearly. You nervous? He asked the night before the operation. Yes, but also excited is a strange feeling. Scared and hopeful at same time. I know what you mean. Liz looked at him in the dim light. When this over, what you do? Where you go? Deho hadn't thought that far ahead. I don't know. Maybe find some quiet place. Try to live a normal life. You want me come with you? The question surprised him. Over the past weeks, he had gotten so used to Liz being there that he couldn't imagine her not being there. But he had never asked what she wanted. Do you want to come with me? He asked carefully. Yes, if you allow. I know I say I follow you to repay debt, but she paused, searching for words. It's not about debt anymore. It's about choice. I choose to be with you because you make me want to be a better person. You show me what honor really means. Deho felt something tight in his chest loosen. I'd like that. You being there. I think I need you there. You keep me honest. Liz smiled, a rare expression on her usually serious face. Then as decided. After this, we find quiet place together. The next morning, they moved on the relay station. Commander Huang's team went in first, neutralizing the guards with stun weapons. The station was small, only a dozen workers, and most of them didn't even realize what was happening until it was over. Deho, Liz, and Suna reached the broadcast chamber without incident. It was a circular room filled with communication equipment, screens showing data streams from across the galaxy. We have maybe 10 minutes before someone realizes the station has been compromised, Commander Huang said, working at a console. I'm routing the signal through every relay in range. When you start talking, billions of people will be watching. Liz stood in front of the camera, Deho beside her. He could see her hands shaking slightly, but her face was calm. Ready? Commander Huang asked. Ready, Liz said. The camera light turned red. They were live. Liz spoke first, her voice clear despite her accent. My name is Liz of Velthara Prime. I'm here to tell you truth about the war, about what happened, about what continues to happen. I speak not as Veltharan or as human ally. I speak as someone who saw terrible things and can no longer stay silent. She talked about the war from her perspective, the initial Veltharan attacks on human colonies. Attacks she admitted were wrong. The human retaliation, some justified, some crossing lines that should never be crossed. She talked about Commander Park and soldiers like him, who saw Veltharans as things to be destroyed rather than people to be defeated. But she also talked about soldiers like Deho, people who tried to minimize suffering even in the middle of war, people who chose mercy when violence would have been easier. I testify at tribunal because I believe in justice. I believe that both my people and humans must face truth about what we did. We cannot build peace on lies. We cannot heal if we pretend wounds do not exist. Then Deho spoke. He talked about growing up poor, about joining the military to protect people, about slowly realizing that the war was changing him into something he didn't want to be. I refused my share of the salvage because I couldn't stomach profiting from destruction. Some called me a coward for that. They said I betrayed my fellow soldiers. But I think the real betrayal was what we did to the Veltharans. We became the monsters we claimed to be fighting against. He named names. Every officer he had reported for war crimes. Every incident he had witnessed. Every order he had been given that violated military law. General Taman tried to have me killed because I told the truth. He sent mercenaries after me and Liz. He's willing to murder witnesses to protect his reputation. That's not the action of an innocent man. That's the action of someone who knows he's guilty and will do anything to avoid justice. Alarms started blaring in the relay station. On the screens, Deho could see security forces approaching from outside. We're out of time, Commander Huang said. But Liz held up a hand. She had one more thing to say. I know many humans hate Veltharans. I know many Veltharans hate humans. War make hate easy, but hate is lazy. Hate asks nothing of you except to be afraid and angry. Love, forgiveness, understanding, these things are hard. They require courage. She looked directly into the camera. Captain Deho show me this courage. He not perfect. He make mistakes. But when he have power over my people, he choose mercy. That is what humanity should mean. Not power without limits, but power with responsibility. Not strength without conscience, but strength in service of justice. She paused. My people lost war. We deserve to lose. We were wrong to start it. But losing war does not mean we deserve to be destroyed. Winning war does not give humans right to commit atrocities. Both sides must be better. Must choose to be better. The door to the broadcast chamber shuddered under heavy impacts. Security forces were trying to break in. Deho stepped closer to Liz. We don't know what happens next. We might be arrested. General Taman still has powerful friends, but at least now people know the truth. They can decide for themselves what that means. He looked at the camera. I'm not asking you to think I'm a hero. I'm not. I'm just a soldier who got tired of pretending terrible things were acceptable. If that makes me a traitor, then I guess I'm a traitor. But I can live with that. I couldn't live with the alternative. The door burst open. Soldiers poured in, weapons raised. Cut the feed, Commander Huang ordered. The camera light went dark. They had said what they needed to say. The soldiers surrounded them, but they didn't fire. They just stood there, weapons pointed, waiting for orders that didn't come. Because across the galaxy, on billions of screens, people had just heard something they couldn't unhear. Truth spoken plainly, without propaganda, without spin. Just two people. One human and one Veltheran, explaining what had happened and why it mattered. The commander of the security force, a young lieutenant, lowered his weapon slowly. I saw your testimony. At the tribunal. My sister was on Velthera Prime. She told me about the things that happened there, things that made her sick. He looked at his soldiers. Stand down. They lowered their weapons. The lieutenant looked at Deho. You're under arrest. But I'll make sure you're treated properly, that you get to your trial safely. Thank you, Deho said. As they were led out of the relay station, Suna fell into the trial of General Taman lasted 6 weeks. Every day brought new revelations, new testimonies, new evidence of corruption and cruelty. But this time the general couldn't silence the witnesses. The broadcast had made Deho and Liz too visible, too important. Killing them now would only prove their accusations true. The public opinion had shifted. Not all at once and not completely, but enough. People were asking hard questions about the war, about what had been done in their name, about what kind of federation they wanted to be. General Taman was found guilty on 17 counts of war crimes. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. 11 other officers received similar sentences. Commander Park, who had cooperated with investigators, received 20 years. Deho sat in the courtroom when the verdict was read, feeling nothing. No satisfaction, no joy, no relief. Just a hollow emptiness where anger used to be. Is this what justice feels like? Liz asked beside him. I don't know, Deho admitted. I thought I would feel better. But nothing really changes, does it? The people who died are still dead. The villages that burned are still ruins. But future changes, Liz said. Because of what we do, next war may be different. Maybe soldiers think twice before following bad orders. Maybe officers remember that there are consequences. Maybe, Deho said. He wanted to believe that. After the trial, they were free to go. No charges against them. The Federation offered them medals, commendations, official recognition, as heroes of transparency and justice. Deho refused it all. I don't want medals, he told the Federation representative who came to see them. I just want to be left alone. The representative, an older woman with kind eyes, smiled sadly. I understand. But you should know what you did matters. The military is implementing new oversight procedures. Training on ethical conduct in warfare, cultural sensitivity programs. It's not enough, but it's a start. And it's because of you. After she left, Suna found them packing their few belongings. She was wearing civilian clothes now, having resigned her commission after the trial. So where are you two going? She asked. Don't know yet, Deho said. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere far from politics and trials and people who want to make us symbols of things. I might know a place, Suna said. Planet called Nuri. It's a refugee settlement world, people from all over the galaxy trying to start fresh. They need engineers, teachers, builders. Might be good for you. Liz looked interested. Refugees? From war? From lots of things. Wars, disasters, persecution. It's not fancy, but it's honest. People there just want to live in peace. Daiho and Liz looked at each other. Without speaking, they both knew. That was exactly what they needed. Nuri was beautiful in a rough way. Two suns hung in the sky, one amber and one violet, giving everything a strange double shadow. The land was mostly undeveloped, open plains with small settlements scattered across them. The refugee coordinator, a tired-looking man named Junho, met them at the landing pad. "You're the ones from the trial? The famous ones?" "We're just people looking for work," Daiho said. Yunyo studied them for a moment, then nodded. "Fair enough. We don't care about fame here. We care about what you can do. You said you're an engineer? Military engineering, mostly. But I can adapt." "Good, we're building a water treatment facility. Could use someone who knows their way around complex systems." "And you?" He looked at Liz. "I was scholar. Teach history, language, culture. Perfect. The children's school needs teachers. We've got kids from 30 different species all trying to learn together. Someone who understands multiple cultures would be valuable." Just like that, they had jobs. They had purpose. The first few months were hard. Physical labor under two suns was exhausting. The refugee community had its tensions. Old grudges from various conflicts. Species that had been enemies learning to be neighbors. But slowly, day by day, things got better. Daiho worked on the water facility, solving problems, teaching others, feeling useful in a way he hadn't since before the war. This was building instead of destroying, creating instead of taking. It felt right. Liz thrived in the school. She taught Veltharan and human history side by side, showing the children that both cultures had beauty and darkness, wisdom and folly. She taught them that understanding didn't mean agreement, but it did mean respect. One evening, about 6 months after arriving on Nuri, Daiho was walking back from the construction site when he found Liz sitting outside their small house. It was barely more than a prefab shelter, but it was theirs. She was watching the twin suns set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. He sat beside her, both of them quiet for a while. "I was thinking today," Liz said eventually, "about life debt. About Cathara, yeah? I tell you before that I follow you to repay debt. That you saved my life and I owe you service. I remember. I told you there was no debt." "You were right." Liz turned to look at him. "Is no debt. Never was debt. I choose to follow you because I want to. Because you show me what I want to be. You not my savior. You my friend? Is that right word?" Daiho felt warmth in his chest. "Yeah, that's the right word. And you're my friend too. More than that, actually. You're the person who kept me human when I wanted to give up on humanity. So we save each other?" "I think so." Liz smiled, that rare expression that made her whole face lighter. "Good. Is better than one person saving other. More balanced." They sat together as the sun slowly sank below the horizon. In the distance, they could hear children playing, voices in a dozen different languages mixing together. Someone was cooking, the smell of food drifting on the evening air. A dog barked. Someone laughed. "Normal sounds? Peaceful sounds. Do you ever regret it?" Daiho asked. "Following me. Everything that happened. The tribunal, the assassination attempts, all of it." Liz thought about it seriously. "No, it was hard, yes. Scary, yes. But also necessary. We tell truth. We stand up. We do not let bad things hide in shadows. If I not do that, I regret forever." "Me too," Daiho said. A small child ran up to them, a Veltharan girl about 6 years old. She was holding a drawing she had made in Liz's class. "Teacher Liz, look what I made." The child showed them a picture of two suns and many small figures holding hands beneath them. Different colored figures, different shapes, all connected. "Is beautiful," Liz said, taking the drawing carefully. "What you call it?" "I call it tomorrow, because teachers say tomorrow can be better than yesterday if we choose to make it better." The child ran off to show her parents, leaving Daiho and Liz with the drawing. "You teach them that?" Daiho asked. "I teach them what you teach me. That choice matter. That one person choosing to be good can change things." Daiho looked at the drawing, at all those small figures holding hands. "Do you think it's true? Can tomorrow really be better?" "Already is better," Liz said. "You not soldier anymore. I not refugee without purpose. We not running, not hiding. We just living, building, teaching, that is better." She was right. It was better. Not perfect, not easy, but better. Over the next year, Nuri grew. More refugees came. More buildings were built. The water treatment facility that Deho helped design became a model for other settlements. Liss's school expanded, adding more teachers, more students. Suna visited sometimes, bringing news from the core worlds. The military reforms were progressing. Slowly, with resistance, but progressing. Some veterans groups were using Deho's testimony as a teaching tool, discussing ethical conduct in combat. Some Veltheran communities were using Lys's words to build bridges with human populations. "You two started something," Suna said during one visit. "Maybe not a revolution, but definitely a shift. People are thinking differently about war, about the other side, about what honor really means." "We just told the truth," Deho said. "Yeah, but that's harder than it sounds. Most people can't do it. They're too afraid, or too comfortable with lies." After Suna left, Liss asked Deho something she had been thinking about. "You happy here, on Nuri?" Deho looked around at the settlement they had helped build, at the life they had created. "Yeah, I am." "Are you?" "Yes, but sometimes I wonder. We could do more. Could travel, give talks, help other communities. Do you want to do that?" Liss was quiet. "Part of me want to keep fighting for what is right, but other part just want peace. Want garden and students and quiet evenings." "We don't have to choose right now," Deho said. "We can have peace for a while, then decide if we want to do more." "You would come with me?" "If I decide to do more, of course. That's what we do. We face things together." 2 years after arriving on Nuri, the settlement held its first official founding ceremony. Leaders from different refugee groups spoke about building a new kind of community, one where past conflicts didn't determine future relationships. They asked Deho to speak. He almost refused, but Liss encouraged him. He stood in front of hundreds of people, all different species, all with their own stories of loss and survival, and spoke simply. "I came here because I wanted to disappear. I was tired of war, tired of fighting, tired of being angry. I thought if I could just hide somewhere quiet, I could forget everything that happened." He paused, looking at the faces watching him. "But you can't forget. And you shouldn't.